Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're with us this evening. My name is Pam Edgar. I'm the Director of Education at CaringKind, and we're thrilled to be offering creative connections, meaningful engagement across the stages of dementia. And I am very thrilled to introduce Olivia Cohen. She is the Director of Early Stage and Social Engagement Programs at CaringKind. Olivia is a board-certified music therapist and licensed creative arts therapist. She has over 12 years experience working in long-term care, healthcare, and with individuals with Alzheimer's and dementia. Her work has been featured in publications such as the New York Times, Huffington Post, Chasing News, and Aging Today. And she has co-authored a chapter in the book Creative Arts Therapies and the LGBTQ Community. Welcome, Olivia. It's wonderful to have you.
So, like we said before with that wonderful introduction from Pam, today we are joining us for Creative Connections, Meaningful Engagement Across the Stages of Dementia. And so we're going to talk a bit more about what that means across the stages of dementia. And I'm going to help break down some aspects of how do we really find ways to make sure that our engagement opportunities are what we're doing, our shared experiences, our anything that we're providing is purposeful, has intention behind it, meets the person and is strength-based and dignified and really is an example for all the reasons why you guys just so beautifully shared in the chat before. How can we create those experiences for people? So our goals for today, well, I want to share a little bit about our session for today. So this session is for family members, it's for friends, it's for healthcare professionals, anyone who's supporting somebody with the diagnosis of dementia and that wants to access ideas and explore creative ways to enhance their connection and quality of life for the person with dementia. And if anyone is joining us that does have the diagnosis, I want to encourage you to think of ways to help identify what is your preference and how can you make those preferences known to your caregivers, to your care partners, to your caring family and friends who are alongside with you? How can you make those needs known? How can you communicate what you enjoy and what your needs are? So if you're here for that today, you're in the right place. Our goals for today are broken down into the following categories. So we're going to look at how we can decode the dementia stages by really focusing on what is the in terms of engagement at each stage, how do we ensure that we're promoting meaningful opportunities for connection? Like I said earlier, that are dignified and strength-based. What are the strengths that we're working with at each stage that we can really highlight with the opportunities for engagement, connection, and meaningful purpose? From there, another goal of ours will be how can we create an opportunity for that? Um, we'll learn some ways, and I will have some handouts for everybody to give you some ideas. We have a couple of different opportunities for some ideas, but this isn't an exhaustive list, and you guys can be creative and seeing how creative you were with the icebreaker that we just had earlier, the exercise that we did earlier. How can we make those opportunities available and really get creative? How can we create an opportunity that feels like I just went to Santorini? How can it feel like I traveled right in my very own bedroom or room, and at any time of day, at any point? So how can we make that seem um, a reality in ways? And then the last bit is a goal is to understand how these opportunities can really strengthen relationships. How can they build deeper, emotionally fulfilling connections with those who that are in your care, and how can that strengthen a dynamic that may at times feel tense? How can meaningful engagement and those opportunities do that? So I'm using the word engagement a lot. Um, but what is it? It's a large word, but in this context of what we're talking here, engagement is participating in activities that spark joy, connection, and purpose. And so that the meaning of purpose and that connection is really the key aspect of it. And you'll see it says keys here on the slide, and activities should be meaningful to the individual, reflect their interests, history, and preferences. And what that means is that just like you did in the exercise, those were meaningful to you. Each of those activities, each of those um, scenarios that you described were meaningful to you and had a special reason why you chose that. And that's important. And we, on the other side, need to understand that about the other person. What is important to them? And how can we do that by taking into context their history, their interests, all the parts that make us us. I use something as an example oftentimes of a study that was done a long time ago where they used this idea of relaxing music, those albums that you can buy that have just a whole list of relaxing music. And if you were to buy it, you would think, okay, this is relaxing and I can be relaxed from it. What they found in the study was that it doesn't work for everybody. And so there are some songs that are more relaxing to people than others. And sometimes those relaxing songs that we think are relaxing are actually really annoying to people. So our preferences are really what make those connections that much more deeper and that make these opportunities that much more successful. So one size doesn't fit all is kind of what I'm leaning towards. In terms of the role of the caregiver, we're going to talk about that and how does that come into play? So it's to encourage participation, but not just that. We want to look at other things that can help make an opportunity, a meaningful engagement opportunity, successful. And that looks at terms of does the environment feel safe to do whatever we're asking them to do? Does it feel inclusive? And is it conducive to the activity? And we'll dig into that some more. And we're going to see how can we adapt some of these activities to meet the individual's current abilities. So how can we make these successful opportunities for connection and engagement between both the caregiver and the person with the diagnosis? And so sometimes these activities will be setting something up for the person to engage in. It may be independently on their own, or it can be a shared experience, which could be a really great opportunity to engage in something together outside of these roles that we have of who's being cared for and who's being taken care of. It just levels the playing field that we're both enjoying something together. So we can talk about those ways as well. So why does all of this matter? Well, we know that a lot of times we can find ways to incorporate meaningful engagement first to meet a specific need or to have a specific goal. We find that an engaging opportunity can provide physical comfort. It can reduce stress at the right times, in the right moments. It can reduce agitation. And on the other side, it can reduce fatigue if we have something that's more stimulating, more energetic. And so we can use these as opportunities to help move us in different directions. For improved transitions, we can find that well-timed activities can really help with transitions during the day, whether that's using music to help motivate somebody to get dressed in the morning. I think we all have our routines to get us out of bed for those who aren't morning folks. And so sometimes I have my morning music to kind of get me rolling and out of bed. But what are those things, and where can we have a well-timed activity to help a person? Maybe during a stressful time like bathing, or that would be a great time to make that a more enjoyable experience, or find ways to bring joy into that experience more than making it just a stressful experience. Or maybe it's soothing. Maybe we need more soothing aspects in that. So well-timed activities can be really helpful. Joy and purpose. Finding ways to add meaning and happiness to an individual's life. Providing a sense of purpose is what we all kind of are here for. It can help someone feel like they're a part of something. If a person with the diagnosis no longer feels like they're contributing to their family, can we find an activity for somebody that feels like they're still able to contribute to their family in some ways? Um, Perhaps it's somebody who had to retire because things became too difficult. How can we still have them feel like they're a part of a unit and contributing to their household or their themselves? And also, when we no longer feel useful, that can be really hard on people to have so much loss and to no longer feel useful. You no longer feel like yourself. And so, how can we help people reconnect to that when there's been so much loss? There's also emotional connection, like I mentioned earlier about the shared experience. These opportunities, when you least expect it, can really create joy and strengthen the bond between the caring family members and friends and the individual with the diagnosis when we least expect it. Moving together, experiencing joy together, experiencing something calming together has a very transformative effect on both people. So that can help strengthen the emotional bond. And at the end of the day, a small, meaningful moment can make a big difference. It can be just from one moment to the next, something that brings a smile to somebody, something that brings a moment of calm. Those can make really big differences in somebody's day. So those are some of the reasons why it matters. But I know we'll find some more as we talk and share with each other. So, how to make meaningful engagement work? I'm talking all about what this is, but how do we really get down to the nitty gritty to make it a successful experience? We'll go into each of these a little bit deeper, but one of the ways that to first start off is this concept I'm using of decoding. So, how do we understand the person's needs and preferences? What is the reason to bring in this opportunity for meaningful engagement? I mean, we can talk about things that are joyful and just bringing them in, but to make it really feel connected, again, we're going back to purpose and intention. Is there a reason to bring art to somebody or to have them look at art? Does it connect to any of the whys that you all so beautifully highlighted in the beginning? What is the why? What is the reason? And so understanding that and understanding the need. Is there a need at a certain time of day that would be really helpful for the person to not feel stressed during a stressful moment? Is there a need to help somebody not feel as fatigued or bored throughout their day? And to have a sense of feeling energetic and to be excited about something. So what is that need, and really understanding that and their preferences. And we want to meet the person where they are. We want to match the activity complexity or tools and make sure they're accessible. And then from there, we want to adapt and modify things outside of the person, things in the environment, things to make it more successful. Is the lighting okay? Is there too much going on in the space? Are there too many things on the table that are making it a little overstimulating or overwhelming? And how can we really allow the person to connect with this opportunity for engagement? And then lastly, to make it work, there is no one way to engagement, we need multiple routes. And so you can have a plan and also know that you can leave the plan at any time and be creative and offer multiple ways for the person to engage so that they're really making the choice at the end of the day. So for decode, um, this is where we're taking into consideration understanding the person's needs and preferences. And to do that, we need to take into consideration their current interests. What do they currently like to do? Um, are there routines in their day that we know that they enjoy? Is it watching a certain TV show at a certain time? Do they enjoy game shows? Can we incorporate a game show feel into something that we're doing? Do they love art? Do they like reading? What are their current interests and how can we incorporate that? Um, and I want to highlight the aspect of past interests that just because something is not being followed in the current moment, it doesn't mean that it's no longer of interest to them. So past interests are something to also take into consideration as well. Um, Maybe it's something that's not being followed at the time because it feels too much. And so how can we make that an accessible opportunity and bring that aspect from the past now into the future, if that's something they love to do. Their history, their personhood, and their history, knowing about their life, their job, their family, their roles, who is important to them. Do they like pets? Are there furry friends that are important to them? What are the important roles that they've played in their life? Is it mother? Is it being mother? And is it caring for others? Can we help reconnect them to that sense and that role that they played in that they still play and reconnect them to that. So all of these are important things that we identify as parts of ourselves and we want to make sure that that connects through to somebody throughout their whole life. And then also taking into cultural and religious backgrounds and making sure that whatever we're doing is connected to that person in terms incorporated into their preferences. Are there rituals or routines that we can help them help support them maintain? Maybe going to church is too overstimulating, but can we find ways for them to still feel like they're connecting to their religious practices and ways? So again, that comes with that creativity, but knowing the person and finding a way for them to still feel connected to those things that make them feel like who they are. But how do we do this? Well, ask the person always first, have a conversation always first. But if for some reason that they're not able to answer, you can always observe. You can see what does it look like when they're engaged in something that they enjoy. What do you notice? Are they um, how can you tell that they're enjoying? Are they smiling? Do they seem relaxed? What is their body language? So how can we find some of those aspects just from observing them in their own natural routines in the time? And you can also you want to also in the same aspect, what does it look like when they don't like something? And really take that into heart too. Um, I know when um, I don't like something, I furrow my brow or I'm very eyebrow expressive. But, are there ways to tell us that somebody doesn't like something? Are their shoulders getting tense? Are they uncomfortable and stressed out? Are they clenching? Are they less talkative than they were before? Maybe they're being more quiet because something's changed and they're uncomfortable. So it's important to know what a dislike looks like as well. And sometimes also know that we all have days when something we enjoy just isn't cutting it. And it doesn't mean that the interest is gone. But that's something, all these things are important to take into consideration as well. One day, even though somebody loves listening to a specific song, maybe the next day it doesn't work, and maybe it was just a hard day. If you notice that it's happening consistently, then I would say, hey, maybe it's time to use a different song or to use a different modality. Um, so there's a lot of detective work involved in this. and a lot of trial and error, but it's really important to know what is feels seems to bring the person joy, comfort, energy, and what is bringing the person negative feelings, sadness, are they getting teary-eyed, all those things. And then meet. So how do we part of ensuring that we are setting folks up for success to actually participate in the thing that we're presenting is to understand what is the need. Are they bored? Do they need something soothing? Is it a well-timed activity that we're looking for? Do they need time to connect with others? Is that the need? Identify what that need is. And then the level of the task. So the person's abilities in making sure that whatever it is that we're providing isn't too challenging. We don't want to create a scenario or an opportunity where somebody can feel shame, frustration, or a sense of failure in what they're doing. Um, on the flip side, we don't want something to be too easy, that it feels infantilizing or uninspiring, or we want it to be challenging enough to stimulate thinking and to also be interesting and engaging. We want to take into consideration the stage, where as an individual moves into more progressed stages of their diagnosis, these activities that we're presenting, these opportunities for meaningful engagement, will need to match them at each of those stages. And so I'm going to break this down um, so that we have a focus of at each stage of what we're looking for to help people connect to those at each stage. And then lastly, just to be flexible. Things change daily. Like I was giving the example of music, and a song works one day, it doesn't work the next day, or so being flexible, what somebody may be able to do one day may be different from the next. So being able to have lots of tools in our tool bag to adapt accordingly, it will be helpful for us. And again, that also goes back to choice. If we know choices that we have, the choices that we can offer, that's going to help us in the long run as well. So here's some of that, the opportunities for choices, the opportunities to adapt and modify. But we're looking at this more so in terms of the environment. Those environmental aspects are all a part of setting up the individual for success. So accessibility. Are they able to hear what we're asking them to do? Are they able to hear if there's music on? Are we able to make it accessible so they have that hearing and visual support? Or do they need some kind of physical adaptation? I mean, for example, are you painting and the paintbrush is too thin and you need something with a wider grip so the person can really use that paintbrush and get into the art and making a beautiful painting? And does the person need ample time to absorb and respond to information? Do they just need some space to take in whatever they're being asked to do? So that's making things accessible. And if we're presenting something as a caregiver, if we're presenting a opportunity for engagement, maybe we need to take into consideration our approach. Does Which ties into the aspect that I mentioned before of that ample time to absorb and respond to information. Do I need Does the person need a little bit more transition time to get them going? Do they need time to go from one room to the next? Do they need time to just from finishing having a meal to now breaking out some kind of engagement opportunity? Do they need a little space in between those two to be able to transition? Um, do we need to simplify what we're asking them to do? Do we need to demonstrate this activity or model it? And a way to do that for folks is to say, hey, let's do this together. to make it an activity that you're doing together and that you're modeling for the person at the same time. And we want to honor their dignity. If it feels hard, but maybe sometimes folks just need a visual cue. We don't want to do everything for them. We want to really allow the person to do things and be as independent as possible. And so, being mindful of how much we're modifying anything and how much we're incorporating ourselves. Doing this together is a great way to say, "Hey, I'm also in this with you." And then also direct phrases. Am I asking somebody to do something in 4 words? Is that too much? Do I need to break it down to 3 words? I always say to people, how simple can you say something? How much can you break it down? Can can it just be grab the marker as opposed to grab the marker and then place it on the paper and color in this area first? Just a simple grab the marker. First step done. Then break it down to the next. Color on the page. Let's do it together. Those are simple ways to just break down a phrase and use less words in making those connections happen. Um, routine. Routine is a great way to incorporate a lot of these activities. If there's a schedule, if there's a certain time of day that you're noticing that would be helpful for a well-timed activity, how can it be incorporated into their routine? It's really helpful in supporting the person. And again, what is best for their needs, working on their schedule and identifying an opportunity for engagement that fits in within their schedule is a real way to honor them as a person, and what their needs are. And then lastly, the environment, taking into consideration when and where we're presenting this engagement opportunity. Is there a specific time of day that's better than others? Um, is the space right for the activity that I'm asking folks to do? Is it too cluttered? Is there not enough lighting that's creating too many shadows and perhaps it's becoming overstimulating? Are there too many options in front? Is that making it overwhelming for somebody? So really considering setting up the environment for success. And lastly, choice. We've been talking about choice a bit, and we want to offer multiple ways to engage. And so, if we know how to adapt and modify different opportunities that we're bringing to folks, you increase the opportunities of choice that you can bring to people. Um, one of the things that we can help support this concept of choice is folks have a right to choose what they're engaging in. So we want to involve them in the decision-making process. So invite them to participate. Invite them to, I've set out these art materials and I thought that we could make some art together. Would you like to do that with me? It's much more, uh, everybody loves an invitation to a party. So have folks feel like they have an invitation to a party. Um, we want to offer opportunities for engagement. And like I said, the more options you have in your tool bag, the more the opportunities on a hard day that you'll have something that they may say yes to. And some days it may just be no. And that's okay too. And that's a part of choice as well. It's okay to say no. So dig into that tool bag when you can to give a lot of those choices, but also know that that everyone loves an invitation to a party, and people love to say no to an invitation to a party as well. So, and that's okay. Um, and it's a really allowing giving. I think there's so much power in allowing somebody the opportunity to exercise their right to say no, especially when there's so much loss, and there's so much happening out of our control. That is an opportunity in itself to be able to say no that can be really empowering for folks. So the no is not always the end of everything. Look at it as another opportunity and choice as well. Okay. I want to do a quick check-in. Pam, is there anything in the chat that's coming up? I'll pause here. I'll stop my share.
Yes, yes, there is. Let me um, bring my spotlight back on. Um, bring you on to, here we are together again. Yes, Renee asked a great question. I think when you were talking about personalization of activities, how do we get frontline staff to buy in?
Mhm.
That is a challenge.
I've found, yes, it's a challenge. And I found that some of the best ways to do that, to get buy-in, is to actually incorporate frontline staff into what I'm doing. So if I'm leading an activity where frontline staff are present, I bring them into the mix as well so that we can all have a shared experience and feel like this is a community all together. And then they can really feel a part of any positive transformations that they're noticing. They helped contribute to that as well. And so bringing in frontline staff as much as possible to also experience the benefits, but also see the benefits themselves. And so if we can create those opportunities, that could be really helpful. It's not always easy, but find those ways to really incorporate frontline staff as much as
And
possible.
Olivia, have you seen care partners do that successfully in nursing homes? Or what would you say, how might you, if you were visiting a family member or friend, engage a staff member?
Absolutely. I think, if we're looking at residential in healthcare environments, um the everybody who is a part of that, whether it's family member or staff, that is a community that's all together. And so, how can we all have this shared experience? Because it only helps lift up the environment that much more and the folks that are living there that much more. And so, if there's an opportunity for a family member to be involved, family members can learn also from seeing the staff engaging, how they can also engage. And so, it's a give and take. We're all learning from each other. There's so much information, and one of the things that we always used to say is family members are a part of the care team as well, because we need to understand as staff members information that helps us be the detectives to make those engagement opportunities more personalized, and then also being a part of it and having that shared experience. Again, when everyone's having a shared experience, we reduce the roles, this hierarchy, this differential in power, and we're all experiencing something in the moment at the same time. And that is a beautiful thing that happens. And it allows us to participate in something with someone else. There's a lot of connection that happens. So, great question, Renee. All right, folks, I am going to share my screen again, but again, feel free to pop any questions in the and I just see Renee said approach is important too. Absolutely. The interaction happens before we actually get to the person, right? And so our energy and how we present ourselves is really important. So if I come rushing up, and this is for anybody, if I come rushing up and my energy is really which I have done before, is really too high for somebody and isn't at the right place for somebody else, I have to be mindful of how I'm presenting. If I'm talking too fast, because I'm really excited about something, or I'm not talking fast enough because and there's nothing really exciting or engaging about my voice, our approach is important too. I absolutely understand, Renee. Yes. It is hard. It does take a long time to change culture, but um, small moments and small things, those are big wins. All right, folks, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, here we go. And so, um, just looking at some of just breaking it down into the three stages of dementia. We have early stage, we're looking at some of the challenges are a mild memory loss or difficulty finding words, misplacing things here and there. And some of the engagement tips for this area are to really lean in and focus on familiar routines, hobbies, giving gentle reminders. Another aspect of in early stage it's really helpful is really leaning into technology as helping with those gentle reminders. There's so much right now that we have with Alexa and this app and that app that can really help us set up routines that can automatically remind us of things and really helpful for early stages. Middle stage, where there we have some more, we have a little bit more increased confusion and difficulty with the complex tasks. And our engagement tips for this is to really simplify those activities, use some visual cues can be helpful, and really encouraging active participation. And in late stage, if we're focusing, these challenges would be limited communication and physical changes. Um, and the engagement tips for these areas would be we're looking at more sensory-based activities, maybe soothing music. Physical touch is really important, especially when people have less movement. How can we help them still feel supported and connected to their bodies? So looking in a little bit more to early stage and some parts of it that I would recommend. Um, Music and art. Some ideas for this stage would be to sing along to some favorite songs. Again, technology is really great. How can we incorporate somebody in the early stages to create playlists, participate in the opportunity to create their own playlists? How can we incorporate them and empower them to participate in creating routines for themselves or to finding accessible technology that really helps them feel and maintain their independence? A lot of times, maybe there's not as much that's happening on the being shared explicitly from a person in early stage, and maybe they're having their own internal process. But something creative is using a journal and to help write down experiences and share the stories if they would show like to. But how can we use some creative expression? Or help them use creative expression to share what it's like at these early stages and just really noting some of the changes that they're experiencing at this point. And and physical movement, can we help them participate in movement practices to help them support their balance? We notice that balance is challenging. And so maybe it's yoga, maybe it's Pilates, maybe it's Tai Chi. Can we join a class together and really make this an opportunity for them to stay connected to their physical movement practice? Help support them in their balance. We know that balance becomes challenging as it impacts certain parts of the brain. And is that something that we can participate in together, help and give them opportunities to make that choice and for themselves? So here are some more practical examples for you guys. I mentioned a lot of this. Um, One thing I didn't maybe cooking together. If cooking is becoming harder and it's something somebody loved to do, can we cook together? Can we make recipes together, find new recipes together? And how can you as a caring family member or friend help support them if that is something that they've loved to do in their whole life and it's becoming harder? And can we still find ways for them to help feel useful, help with the household, cooking chores, and even volunteering? Can they contribute to that generativity outside of their household? At the middle stage, like I said, we're looking at increased confusion. We may need to simplify tasks, and so for music and arts, and you're going to notice as I am a music therapist, like Pam mentioned earlier, I have music incorporated in all of these. So I'm a little partial to music, but I love all the arts. But singing along, singing is really great for us, our bodies, our brains, everything in general. So highly recommend. And if you don't want anyone to hear, you can always sing in the car, in the shower, can find spaces for yourself to sing. But how can we, in this stage for music and arts, how can we simplify it to make it a more successful experience? Can we create simple art projects, or can we, if art, creating art feels challenging, can we reminisce with photos, looking at photos together? Can we create a poem from looking at that photo together? Right, Pam? Um, current events. Great opportunity to engage in discussions of news stories from the past. I think if we're using anything from the news, just be mindful that sometimes news is upsetting, and so we want to share the newspaper, but also be mindful of it, that it can be triggering and it can be upsetting for folks, and so um, we don't want to create an opportunity where we're potentially triggering somebody, but we also don't want to infantilize somebody. If that is something, if somebody was I need to read the Sunday Post Times every Sunday, or the newspaper in the morning with my coffee and tea, can we make it more interactive and have a conversation together from it, but also not infantilizing them by not giving them that choice and opportunity. So, and physical movement again, maybe it becomes a little bit harder, maybe balance becomes a little bit more off, and so we're looking at things in chairs, or more supported types of physical movement. And so, is it gentle stretching? Is it chair exercises? And walking? Is it simple walks in nature? Some folks in our exercise earlier mentioned going out and walking. That is such a great thing for ourselves. If you'd like to incorporate some dance moves, physical dancing is considered physical movement as well. So you can always have a dance party. Some more practical examples for engagement at the middle stages. Um, I think these are opportunities where it may be helpful for those well-timed activities that I talked about. So before a stressful event, maybe playing some calming music before it happens. There's the point of no return. If we hit the stressful event, then we're working double time to help calm the person down and then get them to do the thing we want them to do. So can we prepare for that by creating already a more enjoyable experience? I'm thinking of bathing. Can we put music on? Can we have the room warm if it's too jarring for it to be a cold environment? Can the water already be on and warm and ready and feel like a spa and have the music on, so that we're entering into something that feels a lot better? Um, Again, transitions are helpful at this time, using a well-timed activity during transitions. So can we use storytelling to guide somebody from one activity to next? Can we use a familiar tune to help soothe agitation, or any songs, again, incorporating some music? And, for moments of sundowning, if we're noticing sundowning is happening more, do we want to help introduce something relaxing? If we're already noticing the person is feeling stressed, do we want to lean into that and create a more calming environment? Um, do we want to encourage low energy engagement? Do we want to already anticipate there's a certain time of day that feels a little bit more stressful for the person? So maybe I should have a well-timed activity for that. And then late stage, like I said, we're looking at more sensory based. We have maybe uh, not as much verbal interactions happening at this stage, and not as much physical movement happening at this stage. So, how can we still encourage a person to have these meaningful connections, these opportunities for interacting with us? Music and art is great. Again, music is always incorporated in some way. Sensory stimulation, can we incorporate aromatherapy, calming scents, using soft fabrics or stress balls to help them connect to their bodies? and using nature to help stimulate the senses. Is there ways that we can help incorporate nature, bring nature to them? If they're not able to go out for a walk, can we bring flowers to them and have them smell the flowers? Can we YouTube has great opportunities for these sensory videos where you're listening to birds. And can we make sure that maybe they feel the warmth of the sun by bringing them close to the sunlight? Those are some great outdoor sensory activities that we can bring into a person. So, some practical examples: playing music at the bedside, hand massages, some really lovely lotions with aromatherapy. Be mindful though, if some people do have sensitivities to scent. So, we want to know about that beforehand, and some sensitivities to lotions. So, that is important information to know. Um, do we want to provide pictures of artwork and landscapes and create a beautiful visual opportunity for folks? And connection, can we bring some, if a person was an avid reader but maybe they're no longer able to read, can we read to them, reading stories that are familiar to them? So just to sum up, um, how to support them. We want to be present, meet them where they are in the moment. We want to practice active listening, validate their feelings, focus on their words, their tone, their gesture. Again, observing the like or the dislike and taking that into consideration into what we're providing. Connect beyond words. We want to use nonverbal communication, touch, eye contact, smiles, or frowns. And we want to share in the joy together. We want to share in the experience together. We want to laugh together, revisit cherished moments together, and also again celebrate the small victories when we're having these moments. Again, small things can be big wins. So I have some handouts for you folks. That I want to share and go over a little bit, and then we'll take questions. So I'm going to stop my share so that Pam can share some of those. And
Great. And
yep,
I put them in the chat, Olivia, as well. So let me pull some up and share my screen so you can just take a look of what's been shared. And we will send a email to you afterwards with the slides from today and these handouts as well.
thank you, Pam. So I just want to go over some of the handouts that we've shared with you guys so you have an idea of what you're looking at. This is a resource from the Alzheimer's Association. It's 101 ways to spend time with a person with dementia. And so it's giving some of those practical, what we call household chore based activities, which can feel really purposeful and useful for people. And then also just opportunities together, cooking together, making a fruit salad, just a lot of different opportunities together here. So these are some nice things that we don't often think can be an opportunity for meaningful engagement, but they really can. Folding laundry together, and so allowing the person to feel like they're contributing to the household and doing it with you. It's really important. So take a look at that one. Pam, can we do the next one and then I'll come back to I know I said I didn't have a preference and now I did. That was my choice and my
Fair, fair,
thank Pam for giving me
fair
choice.
choice. Yes, of course.
Um, This is from the Alzheimer's Society, and it's a really great handout. Goes through so many things, kind of a lot of what we're talked about here in terms of what activities are, how can we help make them independent. It has little chapters on there for social, physical, and outdoor activities, things you can do at home. So this is also a great resource as well. Gives you ideas, focus on the person, how to choose an activity. Great information in there. And then our last one. So this is something that I created, and it's based off of the Allen scale, which is something that a lot of occupational therapists use. It focuses on cognition and staging, and it basically is breaking down activities, ideas for each of the stages. So I saw some folks had some questions for some sensory based activities. I do have an area in there as well, I believe, on the second page. Um, well, it's not directly noting sensory, but I will say if this is helpful, sensory-based activities are anything that connects to any of the senses. So if we think about sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. I get it all. I think I got it all. Those are if we're connecting and using more of those aspects, or focusing more on those, it's really helpful for folks at any stage. I think that's something to know, that at any stage and tapping into the senses is really important for our brains. So is that hand massages? That's your touch. Is that using aromatherapy or essential oils in a oil diffuser? That's your smell. Is there something visually appealing in front of us that's really engaging our eyes? That's your visual. Um, is there, and so what you'll notice is that each of these activities, I'll share this a little bit too, in the last column that gets more towards the late stage, those are activities within each of those categories that are focused more on a sensory based activity. So Jessie Lee, I know you were asking what are the examples of sensory based. That's more in that column. You can take a peek at those options there. Thank you, Pam.
You're
So,
welcome.
so folks are asking, will we send these out in an email?
We will. We will. Tomorrow or the next day, sometime this week, you'll get an email with the slides from today and all of the handouts that Olivia shared.
So, I want to take some questions, but I also want to share a couple more resources with folks. So feel free to keep adding things into the chat while I just transition to this screen for everybody. And you'll get this again in the slides. Here are some resources. So if you're looking for some tools, Relish, and there's a lot of other ones that I should add to and update this. That's a note for myself. But Relish on Amazon, you can get, or Keeping Busy from Amazon has really great puzzles that are really dignified. They do not feel infantilizing. I like them because they're large print. They also, you can hold the picture up in front so a person has a reference to putting the puzzle together. SNS Worldwide has a lot of great tools. Also, Elder Song, they have a lot of music activities and things that you can purchase. Somebody in the comments also mentioned Alive Inside. That's a great documentary. Talks all about music preference and the importance of music preference in terms of creating playlists. So, 100%, that is a great resource. We have some books here that are helpful that you can also purchase. And these handouts that we're giving you guys are also a resource for you as well. And just so you all are aware of, and Pam mentioned this earlier, but just to support, we have a whole calendar with social engagement opportunities for folks. You can go to our website. It's caringkind.com/social engagement, I believe. And you can also use yeah, it is right here. You can use the QR code to access that website. And it's a number of our programs as well, but also our cultural partners out in the community and other arts and cultural partners out in the community that are creating some really great programs and dementia-friendly programs. And so really, we work all together to kind of help curate and give the one-stop shop for you guys so you don't have to shop around looking for an art program or museum program. A lot of them are on here for us. Um, So I'm gonna stop my share. I want to thank you all, but I also want to just take a peek to make time for questions if anybody has any things that they'd like to chat about.
There is one here from John, Olivia, who writes, so many things have been triggering for my mom. Is the trick to quickly pivot to something else and to have multiple ideas at all times?
I think that's a technique that's more of a distraction. And so if you can identify, maybe hard, it sounds like it's hard to identify what has been triggering. It's somewhat helpful to have somewhat kind of an idea. Because if we have an idea, that allows us to prepare. But in the moments that we can't prepare for, that we've already reached that point, again, like you said, having that tool bag, so maybe we can offer something to somebody. But I find sometimes understanding where the trigger is coming from in ways can help us match something in our tool bag to what the person may need in the moment. So if the person is becoming really upset, or they're already in that place of being upset, is there something we can introduce that would be calming? Is there something that we can introduce that can help them get maybe it's frustration and they need to get energy out? So again, that comes back to that detective work a little bit, identifying the trigger. If we can do things beforehand to set up that the environment changes in a ways that allows the trigger not to happen. But if we're already there, how can we match the need or the activity in place to kind of distract from what may be upsetting them, if possible. Uh,
Great. More questions are coming in. Are you seeing them, Olivia? I
yeah,
can
yeah,
ask another one if that's helpful.
I can
Uh,
go.
Go ahead.
Um, Tell me if I missed any, but I see, are there resources to understand their emotional states? There are tons of resources out there, I believe. But, there's a great resource called For You by Us, that maybe we can help include in the link, that kind of just gives an understanding of their emotional states. Um, I think that's maybe a broad answer, but oh, I see. There's more. Yeah. Um, so the question is regarding emotional states and people feeling lost and not sure what the other person feels. I think if as much as possible, it may be hard, if it's hard for a person to articulate, um, what are some external information we can gather from in terms of what their emotional state may be. Um, can we use some observational cues to help give us more information? But there are a ton of resources out there to kind of understand their emotional states. And I believe some of the books that I offered folks kind of can touch upon that as well.
We also have an education program that will be linked to our education hub on emotional connection, and also understanding distressing behaviors. So they're kind of a two-part series that goes into more of how do we understand the emotional states and how do we attune and validate those emotions as we communicate. Um, so we will look out for those. They'll be going up on our website soon on our education hub.
That's a great resource. Awesome, Pam. A question regarding sundowning. What is useful in helping to relax? Anxiety is pretty high and questions continue to be repeated. Um, yeah, so sundowning. So there's been a lot of research around lighting with sundowning. And so what can be helpful sometimes, I think, because what we know about sundowning is the internal clock and the internal rhythm is off, and so it becomes a heightened activity time internally. It becomes heightened with stress and unknowing and confusion. A little bit more confusion happens at this time. So there's some things to try. There are some aspects that suggest that instead of, or, how it starts to get darker or anything around that 3 o'clock time, or things feeling like they're changing, keeping the lighting on so that that it helps kind of orient them if you're thinking of like things are getting darker in the environment around 3 o'clock. You want to help keep that lighter so that it doesn't feel like so much as of a drop too early in the day. Because it's summertime, that's a little helpful, but in the fall time when things start to get really dark a lot earlier, the people have a reaction to that. I have a reaction to that. So thinking of lighting, and then uh, what is also really helpful is that at that sundowning time and anxiety is high, yes, can music be incorporated in that time? Can something soothing be incorporated in that time to just help transform the environment to help support the person's internal world? Um,
John has shared that he feels like he's running out of things to be able to talk about. So I think, and he says thank you. So hopefully, John, this gives you some ideas and things.
yeah, maybe there's something on any of those sheets that can help uh spark some ideas, and maybe it's reading stories to each other, and so it takes some of the pressure off yourself. There are some short stories online that are available to be purchased that can encourage conversation and have something to talk about, and so it doesn't feel like all the pressure's on you to generate the conversation, but using stories can be really helpful, and asking them what they think about that can be an opportunity, or a song. Maybe it's listening to music together, and then talking about that song. So tools outside of you can be helpful to give you less of a burden on you.
And Olivia, I'm also thinking, am I remembering this right? There's a website called the Good News Channel or the Good News
Yeah.
website that can have some great articles all based on good news, happy things. So if you're looking for an article to read together, that can be a great resource too.
Hmm. Absolutely. I often myself look at that to help to help engage in some good stories. Um, Let's see. Renee is asking, we have people of varying stages in their dementia journey. We don't have enough staff to break into different groups. Do you have any suggestions? Yeah. So I worked in skilled nursing for a very long time. And it was a big mix of folks. And so I did not have an opportunity to cohort people into different stages. So um finding something that can bring people in different parts of their journey together. Music is a great opportunity for that. Movement is a great opportunity for that. A lot of the arts can be great because we can all look at art together, and experience that. Sharing what colors do we see, having an opinion about it is really important. So that can be adapted in many ways, and just even providing somebody with the experience to look at art, hold art in their hand, making copies for folks. Um, and creating poems together, right? I mentioned earlier, I'm looking at him,
Love that.
looking at maybe looking at art or looking at a picture and getting any response to create a collective poem together. One word in a poem is still making a poem. So that
Even sometimes capturing a sound, someone says, that's a great response, right? Yeah.
and then read that back to them and what they created together. Um, Great. Did I get everybody?
Think so. I'm just looking up to make sure that we didn't miss anything. Alive Inside is an excellent documentary. Thank you, Renee.
I'm also thinking about too, if anybody is wants to hear more about what it's like to live with the diagnosis and what that experience is. We have a program called To Whom I May Concern, and on our website, we have previous performances where the folks with the diagnosis participate in a script writing, the number of sharing sessions that we turn into a script that is then performed at CaringKind. So if you're every script is different, every performance has been different and tailored to each person's individual experience. So if you like to understand more about what the experience is like to receive the diagnosis, the changes, what it's like with family members or relationships, there's a number of different performances that we have on there, and you're all welcome to watch them and hear it right from the folks that have the diagnosis.
Request recommending books, resources regarding emotional states. I don't know if we got to that one or not. We might have.
Um, I'd be happy to put something, Jesse, in if you give me a moment. And when we send out that email, put a resource in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we encourage you to continue to look at our education calendar every month. Next month, Olivia's talked a lot about music, but she's going to be really going in depth about how do you create a playlist for someone? How do you tune into their preferences and really think about what is relaxing for this person or energizing for this person? Am I getting that right, Olivia? Do you want to give a plug for your
Thank you. But yes, I will be, you can join me next month on August 12th at 6 p.m. I'll be talking specifically about music and how can we really incorporate music into some well-timed activities that we talked about today? How can we really use it if I'm thinking about some of these emotional states that Jesse, that you're talking about. So once we identify them, how can we use music to help people move in a certain direction, either get the feeling out or switch it to another area and help transform it into something else. So feel free to join us next month for that.
Wonderful. And thank you, Alyssa, for putting those great links in the chat. Um, Oh, we appreciate the gratitude coming through. We thank you for being a part of our Caring Kind community. We want you to know that you can reach out to us at any time. Sometimes you may have a challenge that's too difficult to talk about in a public forum like this. You can book time with a navigator or call our helpline at any time. Alyssa's going to put those links again. They're at the top, but we can put them in again to share with you. We encourage you to stay in touch with us. We are your partners through the journey, and we're so happy that you're a part of our community. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
I'm just putting those links in one more time so they're at the bottom of the chat. Oh, great. Alyssa's got it. Yep. Thank you.